After the commercial failure of the Xenosaga trilogy, Monolith Soft's director Tetsuya Takahashi had a problem. His focus on an interactive cinematic experience hadn't panned out. The massive 6-game scope of Xenosaga had been whittled down to only 3 titles, and the market hadn't taken to his vision. But that is, as they say,
a good question for another time.
Takahashi's next project had to be something different. Something that balanced his love for epic narratives, philosophical ramblings, and multi-layered characters with environmental exploration. One day, while riding the train, a concept came to mind. Takahashi pictured 2 giant titans warring against each other, all the while civilizations lived on their enormous bodies. He quickly put together a pitch, recruiting art director Yasuyuki Hone to build out models of the 2 massive creatures, whom they dubbed the Bionis and the Mechanus. This was the birth of Xenoblade Chronicles. It's telling that most of the initial focus of Takahashi's new idea was on world building before narrative. Hone, inspired by the idea, had staff members stand in different positions in order for him to understand where and how people could live on a Titan's body. He came up with 5 initial concepts: the Bionis' leg, which became Guar Plains, the Bionis' back and spine, which became Magna Forest, a snowy, shadowy crevice, which became Valak Mountain, the Bionis' calf, which was Colony 9, and finally the sword, which became Sword Valley. Knowing that the unique world Takahashi and Hone had created would require a skilled writer to match it, Takahashi recruited Yuichiro Takeda, an experienced anime scriptwriter who had worked on projects like Zepang, The King of the Braids Gao Gaigar, and the acclaimed space opera anime Banner of the Stars. Takeda, after examining Hone's work, set out to write a draft of the story. This story balanced the intimate coming-of-age narrative of the protagonist with the galactic story of 2 worlds at war. His initial draft remained relatively untouched throughout development, which is most likely responsible for Xenoblade's tight, impactful, and most importantly, emotional narrative. Nintendo revealed the game at E3 2009 under the working title of Monado, Beginning of the World. The trailer leaned into its steampunk aesthetic and had significant differences from the final product. Many of the characters, specifically Shulk and Fiora, wore different outfits. Dunban was seen as a playable character much earlier in the story, and the art palette during battle had placeholder text, but it was enough. Excitement quickly grew around the fledgling RPG, especially around the fresh approach to battle. Unfortunately, after E3, there was little word from Nintendo, as they were unsure if they were going to publish Monado Beginning of the World in the West. In 2010, while Monolith Soft was in the fray of development, Satoru Iwata, the executive producer and future president of Nintendo, which will be important later on in this retrospective, announced a change to the game. Monado Beginning of the World's title would be switched to Xenoblade in order to pay homage to Takahashi's previous works such as Xenogears and Xenosaga. The overall design and flow of Xenoblade was inspired by the open-world Western titles popular during this time, as well as Final Fantasy XII's more unique take on battle. Normal attacks would be automatic, putting a major focus on using arts at specific times. Takahashi didn't only have a specific desire to make something different in the gameplay side, he also had a vision of the soundtrack as well. He collaborated with some major players in the video game music industry, such as Yoko Shimomura, who is well known for composing the soundtrack of Street Fighter II, Super Mario RPG, and the Kingdom Hearts franchise, the latter defining what is notably the sound of Yoko Shimomura. He also worked with Yasunori Mitsuda, composer of possibly the single best video game soundtrack ever created, Chrono Trigger. Initially, Yasunori Mitsuda turned Takahashi down, but eventually came around to the idea. Finally, Manami Kyoda, who worked on some smaller projects like Poke Park Wii Pikachu's Adventure, and the musical trio Ace Plus joined the team as well. Takahashi specifically selected Yoko Shimomura to compose the main theme and the opening sequence, as he wanted to move away from traditional RPG musical tropes and establish a distinct emotional atmosphere. Finally, on June 10th, 2010, Xenoblade was released in Japan and immediately became a critically acclaimed masterpiece. While Nintendo of Europe localized the title in English for the PAL territories, using British voice talent to fit the game's fantasy setting, Nintendo of America resisted publishing the game in North America. They were skeptical of Xenoblade's commercial viability, since massive Japanese RPGs had been nearly non-existent on the Wii. They feared their newly acquired casual audience, cultivated through simple titles like Wii Sports, Mario Kart Wii, and Wii Play, just wouldn't find something like Xenoblade appealing. Needless to say, they were wrong. A gridlock of sorts happened internally at Nintendo until finally the dam broke at E3 2011. Matthew Minel, marketing manager of Nintendo France, revealed that Nintendo of America refused to show Xenoblade at that year's E3. 1 week later, Minel left the company. But the damage had been done. Minel's comment lit a fire among RPG enthusiasts, and thus Operation Rainfall was born. On June 23, 2011, a fan campaign launched among the IGM forums, designed to lobby Nintendo of America into releasing 3 Japanese exclusive Wii titles. The last story, developed by Mistwalker, the studio created by Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of Final Fantasy, Pandora's Tower, a dungeon exploration RPG developed by Gambarion, and most importantly, Xenoblade. Operation Rainfall focused on 2 tactics: flood the Nintendo of America office with physical letters, and pre-order the placeholder title Monado Beginning of the World on Amazon, which hadn't been taken down in the West. By June 25, 2011, the game reached the #1 spot on Amazon's overall software sales chart. Operation Rainfall was successful, and Nintendo announced that Xenoblade, retitled to Xenoblade Chronicles, would be released on April 6, 2012 in North America. In order to mitigate the financial risk, Nintendo limited Xenoblade's print run and sold the title exclusively through GameStop and Nintendo's own online portal. This led to artificial supply shortages, as well as GameStop, allegedly, opening new copies in order to sell them for the much higher inflated used price of $80 to $200. Either way, the launch of Xenoblade in the West was a success. The period from 2013 to 2015 was truly transformative for the newly established IP. Most notably, Shulk became a playable character in Super Smash Bros. 4. Appearing in Super Smash Bros. Has become a sort of rite of passage for the Nintendo franchises. Super Smash helped launch the popularity of titles like Earthbound, Kid Icarus, Metroid, and most importantly, Fire Emblem in the West. It's not an accident that Nintendo's unique JRPG made the roster. Around this time, Nintendo tasked the developer Monster Games with a 3DS port of Xenoblade Chronicles. This was no small task, and if I'm being honest, seemed damn near impossible. On a technical level, the Wii's architecture was too demanding for the current 3DS. Monster Games struggled to retain its draw distance and open world design. Thankfully, Nintendo gave Monster Games access to the new 3DS, a more powerful console that allowed development to move forward. The 3DS port of Xenoblade is an absolute technical marvel. I can't think of a feat more impressive than this when it comes to video game ingenuity. This should not be possible, but it is. Not only did the 3DS port preserve Xenoblade in its entirety, but it also added some new features. There was a token-based lottery system that allowed you to unlock and view 3D character models, a music player, amiibo support, and don't forget the dual screen layout, which presented your map and UI down below, leaving the top screen free for the incredible graphics. Monster Games truly pulled off a miracle here. After completion of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in late 2017, Monolith Soft started work on an HD remaster of the original title called Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This new version would come with updated graphics, something I'll talk about later in this retrospective, and additional content like new outfits, quests, and most importantly, an entire epilogue called Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Now that we have context around how this game came to be and its journey to being published in the West, let's dive into Xenoblade Chronicles and find out why it's so special. Two titans battle in an endless sea. The Bionis, god of Homs, Nopon, animals, nature, and life itself, and the Mechanis, god of metal, machines, and death. It's unknown how long these two giants battled, but one day, a decisive blow was made by the Bionis, shearing the Mechanis' arm from its enormous body. Both creatures lift their blades for one final attack before their eternal battle ends in a draw. You are not just witnessing the birth of a world, but the creation of a prolific video game series. Aeons after the death of the Titans, we find ourselves in a desperate battle between two forces. Dunban, hero of the Homs, leads a band of soldiers against the Mechon, a race of mindless machines whose only desire is to kill and devour living beings. Using a blade only heard of in legend, the Monado, Dunban convinces his two companions, Dixon and Mumkar, to buy the Homs time to escape by making a full-on assault on the enemy. Dixon, who seems to be just as crazy as Dunban, agrees, but Mumkar has different plans. While the two are distracted, Mumkar retreats, only to find himself surrounded by Mechon. It's in this opening section that we're introduced to the battle system. Xenoblade's gameplay is unlike any single-player RPG I've ever played. It takes more inspiration from MMORPGs like WoW, Final Fantasy XIV, and Star Wars The Old Republic than Dragon Quest, Persona, and Final Fantasy proper. I'll dive into the battle system a little later in the analysis, but one thing I do want to point out is how only Dunban's blade, the Monado, can damage the Mechon. Using an ability called Enchantment, he can allow the other two to damage Mechon as well, but until that's cast, Dixon and Mumkar's weapons do nothing. This is both important for the narrative as well as future battles. With Mumkar gone and the Mechon ranks growing, Dixon and Dunban find themselves overwhelmed by the enemy. Taking Monado in hand, Dunban lifts it over his head and meets the Mechon forces before we pan out to finally see where the battle is taking place. Our story then moves past the perspective of Dunban to the main protagonist, Shulk. Shulk is a lovable mechanical scientist for Colony 9. While scavenging for machine parts he can turn into weapons, he's attacked by a Crabble. Rain, a soldier for Colony 9's military and lifetime friend of Shulk, shows up just in time. They defeat the Crabble, and after some back and forth, the two agree to head back to the colony. First thing to know about this title is that with each explorable area comes a deluge of side quests. These quests range from item collection and retrieval to defeating a number of enemies or even a single much stronger enemy. With that in mind, there's a simple rule I followed throughout my playthrough. Don't do anything for free. There's no benefit to exploring an area before you are able to collect side quests. If you follow the story prompts through a zone before exploring it, you'll usually gain quests from NPCs and even new party members, so the rule of thumb is follow the main story until side quests open up. Shulk and Rain head to the training grounds of Colony 9's military base, where they find out that some of the soldiers accidentally crashed their ether tank into a building. This is important for later, so take note. It's here where we also find that Shulk and Dixon, Dunban's companion in the Battle of Sword Valley, have been studying the mysteries of the Monado. You see, Dunban's assault was overall successful as it allowed the troops to retreat, but it came at a great cost to Dunban. Overuse of the Monado nearly killed him after the battle, and after months, he's still recovering from that battle. In the meantime, Dunban's sister, Fiora, takes care of him. The effects of the Monado rendered Dunban's right arm useless. Months after, he's still bedridden and in pain. Fiora brings him his lunch, and the two's relationship is perfectly displayed as Dunban, the older brother, teases his younger sister about taking lunch to Shulk. It's made perfectly clear up front that she has feelings for Shulk, and Dunban won't let her forget it.
More importantly, eat up before it gets cold. I made something really special today.
Don't feel like you need to stay here then, Fiora. Go and make your next delivery.
Huh?
Well, I'm sure you'd like Shulk to try some while it's still hot.
That's okay. Shulk has no sense of taste. He'll say it's delicious even if it's stone cold.
In which case, today he would actually mean it.
Maybe.
Dunban tells Fiora to take some food to Shulk as well and to not worry about him. She obliges, and we take control of her for a short time as we head to the lookout. This scene between Shulk and Fiora is one that stands out to me among so many memorable scenes in this game.
It's always delicious, but today it's amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I used some special herbs and spices today. So if you said it was just the same as usual, I'd know for sure you had no sense of taste.
What?
Nothing. The breeze feels so good.
Yeah. I'd forgotten what it feels like. I never thought it could be so quiet here.
It's obvious that despite Fiora's transparent feelings for Shulk, he seems oblivious to them, a trait he will demonstrate multiple times as the story continues. As the two are sitting there enjoying the breeze, some debris falls from above. Colony 9's cannons activate and shoot down the hunks of garbage that fall from the Bionis' body. Shulk decides they should head back, and it's here where we're introduced to Heart-to-Hearts and the Affinity mechanic. Xenoblade is an enormous title, filled with hundreds upon hundreds of NPCs. Every side quest completed, every conversation had, will add to an affinity chart for each individual zone. There are 5 main zones in the game, and each starts with 0 affinity that will slowly be filled as you complete quests and get to know the struggles of the area's inhabitants. Each party member also has the same affinity gauge, and through battling together, exploring new locations, and participating in Heart-to-Hearts, that affinity will grow. Without getting into too much detail, the party member affinity allows you to share passive skills with each other. This will be important for our final builds, but for now, let's leave it at that. We then switch perspectives again to Rain, who is inside Shulk and Dixon's lab. As he inspects the Monado, he makes the first of many poor choices he'll make throughout the narrative and takes hold of its hilt. The Monado activates just as Shulk and Fiora show up. This scene establishes the dynamic between the 3 lifelong friends so well. Shulk berates Rain for touching the Monado. Rain apologizes, worried about Fiora. Shulk is oblivious that Fiora was nearly cut down by the Monado, and seeing his indifference, Fiora gets angry at him. It's here where Shulk's driving character trait, as well as a key plot point, is introduced.
You're not hurt, are you? The Monado can't cut people.
He wasn't worried about Fiora because the Monado only cuts machines, not organic material. Fiora, not caring if the Monado can actually cut her or not, berates him for not caring.
Well, I just explained why.
That's not the point.
Sorry.
Another key thing that happens here is Shulk, as he takes hold of the Monado, seems to see a vision of some sort.
Look at you, worthless without the Monado.
Until I've scrapped each and every one of you!
So, of course I want to get my revenge!
Your blade, it did not cut deep enough.
No!
Once the dust settles, Rain asks if Shulk wants to join him to collect some ether cylinders. Apparently, the commander needs them for the broken down tank from earlier. The pair set off, but are joined by Fiora at the entrance, who says she needs to keep an eye on Shulk. It is here where we are finally able to start exploring Colony 9. Xenoblade's explorable areas are split into levels, each a sandbox of discovery. This is what laid the groundwork for what would become the immensely popular design of Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The first area you get access to is the surrounding lake of Colony 9. This is the perfect place to start the player out, as its layout is fairly simple compared to later levels. You will most likely explore the entrance first, and as you move further down, you'll come across a unique caterpillar enemy. There are multiple things to do in these areas, mainly gathering shiny blue balls called collectibles, discover locations for additional experience, AP, and affinity, fight normal enemies whose label above their head will tell you their level, and if and how they will willingly engage with you in a fight. And finally, the unique enemies. These, for lack of a better term, are mini-bosses scattered throughout that often drop high-level equipment and net you ton of experience. They're also the best battles in the game, so actively seeking out unique enemies around your same level will always be beneficial in one way or another. Like I mentioned before, Xenoblade's battle system was based off of the traditional art palette and auto-attack style of modern MMORPGs. Your party members will automatically attack the enemy while you choose when and where to use your arts, found below. Auto attacks also fill up each character's unique special meter, and using arts in the correct way will fill up the party combo gauge. I controlled Shulk throughout the majority of the game, but you are able to control any available party member. I'll break down each party member as we recruit them, so let's start off with the initial 3. Fiora is fairly simple. She's a DPS with bleed attacks that increase damage on the enemy. Rain is a physical defense tank as well as a toppler. He's built with the single purpose of drawing aggro, but I'll get into that mechanic a little later. Shulk is one of the most important party members, as one would guess. He's a DPS support with some healing skills and later an entire art palette of buffing and debuffing skills. His most important and strongest art though is his back attack. You see, just using arts whenever they're available will lead you to multiple game overs. Positioning is just as important as timing when it comes to this battle system. Shulk has back attack, which if used while behind the enemy, helpfully marked with an exclamation in the definitive edition, will do 3x damage to the enemy. He also has 2 attacks that will inflict defense down and break if done from the side. I mentioned that Rain is our toppler. In Xenoblade, one of the most broken mechanics is the break, topple, daze mechanic. If an art is pink, that means it has the ability to break the enemy, indicated by this break meter above its health bar. If an enemy is broken, a green art can be used to topple them to the ground, interrupting their attack. Once toppled, a yellow art can be used to daze them. As we'll see with the super bosses at the endgame, this mechanic can be abused to pretty much guarantee a win no matter how strong your opponent. As I continued to explore Colony 9, I came across a bunch of enemies whose levels are far higher than my own. This is another key aspect of Xenoblade's ingenious world building. Every area is built not only to be playable during the time it's introduced, but also for players to come back to once they're stronger. There are entire additional areas of each map that aren't explorable by the player until the late game. One of these areas being the next location for the story, Tephra Cave. Having wrapped up what I can, we decide to move on to the next location. We move through Tephra Cave fairly quickly and make it to the ether cylinder deposit. While gathering the cylinders, Rain sets off some sort of security measure and strange mechon, different from the ones who attacked the Homs in the opening, show up. We quickly dispatch these machines only to hear the sirens of Colony 9. Mechon descend on the colony and with the aid of a faced mechon, easily dispatch the cannons. Shulk and the others race to the colony, trying to reach the lab so they can get the Monado. Unfortunately, the lab is blocked, and they must come up with another plan. Remembering the crashed tank and having these cylinders required to drive it, Shulk and Rain send Fiora to grab it while they hold off the mechon. It's here where another key mechanic for this title and the series as a whole is introduced, the chain attack. During combat, once all 3 sections of your combo gauge are filled, you can perform a combo. Here, time stops and allows you to choose an art to use before moving on to the next party member. This is when the break, topple, daze mechanic really shines, as you are guaranteed an art from all 3 party members every time you activate a combo. This is also a part of the endgame broken strat, but again, we'll discuss that later. Rain and Shulk are able to damage the mechon by toppling them and fend them off long enough for Dunban to show up with Monado in hand. Xenoblade does such a good job building up Dunban. He's the hero of the Homs and wielder of the Monado. When he shows up, not only the player, but Rain and Shulk are relieved to see him. They defeat the mechon, and seeing the path to Fiora cut off, they decide to head for the entrance of the colony. Dunban, still weak and easily overwhelmed by the Monado's power, crumples to the floor with only a few minutes of use. As mechon descend upon our group, Shulk races forward to protect his friends.
This time, it's my turn!
Shulk! No! It'll kill you! Shulk!
Shulk activates the Monado and is able to see the future. The other 2 are amazed as Shulk easily dispatches all the mechon with ease. Having no time to think about what just happened, the 3 of them hurry to the residential district. They reach the second entrance, but are confronted by none other than the face mechon from before. The battle here feels desperate as the Monado's attacks, for whatever reason, are useless against the face mechon. This forces the player to take advantage of the topple and combo mechanics in order to beat this very difficult boss fight. It's essentially a skill check. With the Monado effectively worthless, the face mechon is able to easily thwart our party despite Shulk's best efforts. Just as it's ready to inflict the final blow, Fiora races forward in the tank from earlier. Unfortunately, this attack is as equally ineffective as the others, and she is swatted aside. The face mechon takes hold of the tank as Shulk watches on, helpless to stop him.
Fiora!
Fiora dies, and Shulk, in a fit of blind rage, attacks. Once again, the attacks on the face mechon are ultimately useless, and after another boss fight, the mechon retreats from Colony 9, leaving it a smoldering mess.
Get back here! No!
Picking up the next day, we find Shulk pondering the events of the night and coming to terms with the death of his friend. A death of a party member isn't new to RPGs. There have been multiple titles that have done this, but Fiora's somehow feels different. Unlike the death of, say, Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, or some of the non-optional party deaths in Mass Effect, there's no grandiose moment or time for the hero to say goodbye. Fiora's attack was useless, and she was killed while pleading for Shulk's help. He and the player were powerless to stop it. The fact that they introduced Fiora as a normal party member alongside Shulk and Rain only makes this moment more devastating. As Shulk sits on the bench, he starts to form a plan for revenge. Rain finds Shulk, and he reveals that he is going to leave Colony 9 and hunt down the face mechon that killed Fiora. Rain is all for this plan and decides to join him.
Right then. Yeah.
Look after yourselves, boys. As soon as this heals, I'll be right behind you. And then we will seize our destiny together.
The next section of Tephra Cave is available to us, and after traveling through much of the newer area, Shulk and Rain stop to rest. While sleeping, Shulk dreams about his past. His parents were on an expedition where they came upon some old ruins. Later, Dixon either joins them or finds them. Either way, he opens the ruins to a grisly sight. Everyone is dead, their bodies scattered across the floor. Inside the ruins, placed on a pedestal, is the Monado, and underneath it lies the only survivor of the tragedy, Shulk. We then see a vision where a strange voice asks Shulk about the true Monado.
Do you wish to change it? Huh? The future. It is every man's desire to change the future. Is that not so? Even if everything has been predestined, will you not oppose it? The Monado is now in your hands. The Monado will grow with you. If you can find the true Monado, the future is yours.
Shulk is awakened by Rain's calls for help. A group of spiders attack their camp, and during the commotion, Rain and Shulk are separated. Shulk once again sees a vision of Rain backing into a corner before a giant spider impales him. He chases after his friend until they reach the foretold spot. Rain begins to back away just as Shulk's vision predicted, until Shulk, with the power of the Monado, does this. Shulk was able to not only see the future, but unlocked an ability that allowed him to change it. It's here where another feature of battle is introduced: Future Sight. During encounters, if an enemy is about to deliver a debilitating or deadly blow, Shulk will see the future and is given a short period to change it. This can be done using the Monado's different buffs or debuffs, or warning another party member. Also, keep these Monado's abilities in mind. I have some gripes here, but we'll talk about that later. By using the shield ability, the giant spider's heavy attack becomes obsolete, and the party is able to defeat it and get away. Upon exiting the cave, Shulk and Rain stare in disbelief at the sight of the Bionis and the Mechanis. We are on the Bionis' knee, and it's here at Guar Plains that we get to experience the very essence of Xenoblade Chronicles. If I were to show someone anything from this series, it would be this area. Guar Plains is the quintessential Xenoblade experience. From its music and atmosphere to its enemy placement and secret locations, this is Xenoblade Chronicles. As tempting as it is to go explore, we follow the story markers to a buggy that's smoking. Shulk sees a vision of a boy being pursued by monsters, and with Rain's help, they track down and rescue the child. This is Juju, and his sister is... Yeah, she's a healer. Sharla, after berating her brother, turns to our group. She explains that they're refugees from Colony 6, and like them, the Mekon attacked in overwhelming numbers. But unlike Colony 9, Colony 6 did not weather the attack. Sharla escaped with some refugees and left behind Colony 6's leader, Atharon, and her, fiance/adopted father? Yeah, their relationship isn't very clear, to be honest. Gadot told Sharla to get the survivors out, and that's where things stand. When Shulk and Rain reveal that they're hunting a Mekon and will be traveling to Colony 6, Juju pleads for them to take him with them. Sharla protests before Rain pulls rank.
Watch your mouth and have some respect.
It's here where the very awkward dynamic between Rain and Sharla begins. Sharla immediately begins to compare Rain to Gadot in hilariously forced dialogue.
You really remind me of Gadot when you get angry. When you talk like that, you sound just like Gadot.
Xenoblade's writing is fantastic, but this is an example of the writers forcing in character development where none is really needed. Juju, of course, runs off, and it's up to Shulk, Rain, and our first permanent party member, Sharla, to go after him.
We have to hurry.
I could explore Guar Plains for hours. In fact, I did just that. This place is truly incredible. There's a lake with a giant waterfall, a bridge spanning that lake, an entire underground area that leads out to a cliffside, and a... Ah, crap, I fell. Not a problem. I'll just walk all the way back. Suddenly, this auto-run feature makes more sense. No matter which area we're talking about, Xenoblade does suffer from tons of space, but not a whole lot to do. There are side quests, items to find, and crystals to mine. And as you discover locations, quick travel points will appear. But not everywhere. A lot of the time, you just need to walk for a minute or two. Here, let me give you an example. One of the latter quest lines you can follow in Guar Plains is with this Nopon. He sends you all over the map collecting items for him or felling enemies. Unfortunately, the fast travel point closest to him isn't close at all, and you have to travel back to him in between each of the dozen quests he gives you. It gets quite annoying, honestly, and this isn't the only example of this. Luckily, the sheer beauty of this video game world and its absolute top-tier OST makes the long bouts of nothing bearable. I should also talk about one of Xenoblade's other, well, we'll call them quirks. During battle, your party talks a lot. Here, I'll just show you a battle. Battle cries have become a staple of the series, but that doesn't make them any less ridiculous. It is charming, I'll give the devs that, but listening to over and over and over again becomes a nuisance after a while. It's not all useless though. Your party members will inform you when the combo meter's full or when more enemies are aggroed. Speaking of aggro, this mechanic is one you'll most likely wrestle with your entire playthrough. The AI of your party members, to put it lightly, sucks. They'll ignore you while you're dead, refuse to use important abilities like aggro absorption or healing, and sometimes just do nothing. Aggro is the indicator of who the enemy is targeting. It will default to the character that dishes out the most damage unless another party member has the ability to absorb or build aggro, or you have equipment that lowers your aggro, or a skill that diminishes it. Shulk has an ability that cuts his aggro in half, but because he was my chosen controlled character, I almost always had aggro on me. The intended tank of the party, for now being Rain, should be the one to be targeted. But again, the AI doesn't do its job well, which forces me to hold off on attacking or backing out of the fight for a second to let his damage catch up. Sharla is our first example of a full support unit. Shulk has a singular heal and some buff arts, but Sharla's kit is almost entirely built around healing and support. This is incredibly useful in these opening hours and continues to be useful until the halfway point. By then though, you'll have more efficient methods of healing and ultimately she becomes obsolete. As far as mechanical party members go though, she's one of my favorites. I love the idea of a combat medic, and had they implemented her mechanics better, Sharla would have stayed as a permanent party member. Sharla as a story character though, well, she's alright I guess. We track Juju's movements before discovering his crashed buggy. Upon seeing the buggy, Shulk has a vision of Juju and Sharla dying to a tentacled mechon that Sharla just straight up accepts. She doesn't even question the fact that he can see the future. Initially, Sharla just isn't a very well written character, but she gets better as time goes on. The group continues forward until they come upon the very spot from Shulk's vision.
Wait! Sharla!
Juju!
Another new symbol's appeared on the Monado. Can I save her?
Of course you can.
Shulk unlocks another ability, this time to increase agility, which is the stat tied to accuracy and evasion, probably one of the most important stats of the game. Also, can we just pause to appreciate Shulk's voice actor here? And Sharla for doing this. They defeat the tentacled mechon, but Shulk remembers seeing another mechon in his vision and readies the group. Another face mechon appears, and again, the Monado is useless against it. This time though, the mechon speaks. Our team struggles to fend off the mechon, and he easily defeats us. Laughing at our pathetic attempts to defeat him, he takes Juju as a hostage, forcing our crew to continue onward to Colony 6. This is as good a time as any to talk about equipment. Every piece of armor comes in 3 varieties: slotted, pre-slotted, and non-slotted. These slots are for gems that you can craft in this admittedly confusing minigame. They don't do a great job at explaining this one. Essentially, you choose one player for their ability and the second character for the quality of flame. The mechanics aren't worth going into, but you craft gems used for a plethora of things. These gems are key to character builds and beating the harder bosses later on in the playthrough. You have gems that increase stats, gems that heal you upon giving or receiving damage, gems that can increase your accuracy at night or make you immune to debuffs. This means that slotted armor will almost always be the best choice. Almost no stat increase will beat out giving your character the chance to attack twice in a row. There are a few useful pre-slotted armor sets, especially in the endgame, but any equipment without a slot is effectively useless. I fell again. Upon reaching Colony 9 and entering the ether mines below, we come upon Otharon fighting the mechon. After saving him, we find out that Gato, Sharla's adopted father/fiance, has died. Finally, something he and Rain don't have in common.
You really remind me of Gado.
Shulk sees a vision of what's to come, but doesn't share it immediately because he didn't see Juju and worries he might already be dead. Also, Charlotte doesn't seem too bent out of shape that Gado's dead. Her relationship with him is one of narrative convenience, as you'll see later on. Rain recognizes the signs of Shulk's visions and chews him out for not sharing.
All that power, and you still keep getting it wrong. Better to use my brain than my fists. Shulk, I may rush in head first, but at least my head's useful for something.
Okay, I get the idea.
I ain't done yet. You're useless on your own, Shulk. That's why we're here.
Ryan,
Next time you have a vision, you tell us. We bear the burden together as a team.
And now we are presented with what I believe to be the worst area of the entire game, the Ether Mines. There are other areas that fail to live up to the majesty of Guar Plains, but none of them feel as repetitive and dry as this one. Throw on the fact that the music is plain and boring and the boss fight is terrible, and I couldn't wait to be done here. As we descend the Ether Mines, the team spots a glowing green ether deposit down below, the place of Shulk's vision. We find Juju there, as well as the face mechon who's named Zord. Zord taunts the group into attacking him, and here we are faced with probably my least favorite boss in the game. As always, the Monado can't cut face mechon, so we must build our combo meter in order to damage him. The problem is that most attacks just bounce off of Zord. So instead, we need to build the combo meter by fighting the other mechon that have joined. It's just not very fun. Seeing Shulk and team's desperate fight, Otharon climbs aboard a mining vehicle and crashes it into Zord, sending him flying into the ether pool with Otharon.
But this isn't supposed to happen. Otharon!
Gado, I'll see you before long.
Because Shulk shared his vision, Rain was able to change the future where Shulk couldn't, validating Rain's speech from earlier. Otharon, grateful to still be alive, thanks the others and gives Charlotte Gado's old rifle. Again, Charlotte doesn't seem very sad. She jokes with Rain moments later as they take the elevator up the shaft. Unfortunately, Zord isn't dead yet, and we are forced into another boss battle with him. Also, the audio here was wacky. For whatever reason, Zord's voice is way too loud. They're able to defeat Zord, Shulk cutting off his arms and legs before sending him crashing back down. This dangerous side of Shulk is what is driving the narrative right now. Just barely escaping the blast, our party finds themselves face to face with a Zord army. Metalface appears as well and taunts them about Fiora's death.
I got a good memory. Fiora! Get out of there! Get out!
The cracks in Shulk's calm demeanor begin to show, his thirst for vengeance beginning to overcome his more logical side.
Those words will be your last!
Just when things start to look grim, Dunban and Dixon show up to save the day. Dunban, using a blade forged from the bodies of Mechon, slices down the surrounding army with ease. Dunban is our first party member without a defined role. Unlike Rain and Charlotte, whose builds are obviously built towards tanking and healing, Dunban can be built as either a DPS or an evasion tank. He has devastating attacks, a topple art, a bunch of auras that give him different buffs, and unfortunately, only a single aggro art. That aside, he's one of the best tanks in the game, so I swap him out for Rain and take on Metalface. The battle is scripted, which is increasingly becoming more common with boss battles, and if I'm being honest, takes away from the tension in the moment. Better to just make this a cutscene than have me slowly grind the enemy to 3/4 health. The battle is interrupted by a strange flying creature called a Telethia who attacks Metalface. Seeing the Telethia seems to trigger a much larger and far-reaching vision in Shulk. He sees a tower, some sort of giant shackled to pillars, strange humanoid people with wings on their heads, and a new face mechon. In the vision, Shulk attacks the mechon, and the Monado actually damages it. What he finds inside, though, begins to explain why the Mechon slaying sword didn't work on the Face Mechon. The Telethia forces Metalface to retreat before then returning to a mysterious figure.
You did well. But what of the boy? Ah. Well then, there is much to be done.
The newly unified group gathers together as Shulk explains his vision. He says that he saw a tower, and if he goes there, the Monado will gain the ability to cut Face Mechon. Dixon recognizes this tower, which he calls Prison Island. He also says that the winged Homs are called the High Entia, a race of people that live on the head of the Bionis. Dixon is an interesting character. His design is so different from anyone else's. Like he's from a bygone era. He almost looks like a hippie. He also seems to have knowledge of the world that no one else has. He offers to show them the way to the top of the Bionis, and Otharon and Juju joins them. Once we reach Satoral Marsh, Shulk and Dixon's relationship is explored a bit. Dixon raised him, but they don't seem like father and son. More like colleagues or like a nephew and stoner uncle. I didn't sense a strong tie between the two, which becomes a bit of a narrative issue later on. But despite that, what they have works. Upon reaching the end of the marshes, Dixon and Otharon along with Juju decide to head back to Colony 6 to help with the rebuild now that the Mechon are gone. Oh, and Charlotte thinks that Gato still may be alive or whatever. The cutscene ends with Dixon dropping this line.
Can't say I feel so good about deceiving these kids.
What's that you say?
Oh, just mumbling. Forget I said anything.
It's at this point that the longest and most involved side quests in the entire game can begin. If you return to Colony 6, Juju gives you a list of material needed for the rebuild. There are benefits that come with developing Colony 6, like increased crystal levels in the ether mines and new side quests. There are multiple levels to the rebuild, but you can't really accomplish much until later in the game, so we level up what we can, then head back to Satoral Marsh. Every single area in Xenoblade has both a day and night cycle. These cycles bring different enemies, collectibles, and weather. They also have their own OST. Of all the night OSTs, Satoral Marsh is by far the best. I want to take this time to talk about a sticky subject in Xenoblade, and that is its side quests. There are a lot of side quests in this game. I'm talking about hundreds upon hundreds of fetch quests, bounties, and NPCs to talk to. This has both benefits and drawbacks. The benefit is that if you are completing the different side quests you receive along the way, you will have no need to grind, as most quests offer a substantial amount of experience to the player. The drawback is, well, they're boring, repetitive, and sometimes needlessly confusing. Every area in the game usually contains some sort of special quest line, something that may take you to a unique location or require multiple side quests to complete. A good example is the Giant's Key and Giant's Treasure side quest in Satoral Marsh. There's this stone temple filled with lizard soldiers that you can explore. Once the quest opens up, you receive a key to the temple, and after taking out the King of the Lizards, you must find a passageway to the top. This took me so long to figure out. I suppose if I actually read side quest dialogue, then perhaps there was a clue somewhere. But that's a ton of dialogue. So instead, I just kept searching around until I pretty much by accident discovered a false wall behind the throne. Another irritating quest type are bounties that require a certain weather type or specific time to appear. It's not like the side quests are a massive problem, and at the end of the day, they are optional. But it's a notorious feature of this title and the series as a whole that's frequently cited as a nuisance. After wrapping up the available quests in both Satoral Marsh, Colony 6, and Guar Plains, our party climbs this large temple-like structure. At the top, Dunban and Shulk pause to have a conversation about the Monado.
What is it, Shulk?
It's about the Monado. I'd like to ask your permission to use it a little longer.
We head through a cave entrance and into the innards of the Bionis. It's here where Shulk observes a crucial detail about the Titan.
What is it, Shulk?
Oh, nothing. It's just that it feels like the Bionis isn't really dead.
We continue forward before we get our first perspective of the Mechonis. A new Face Mechon, dubbed Face Nemesis, is being assembled, and surprisingly, it would seem that a human female body is being placed inside. It's here where we see our first true citizen of the Mechon. This woman goes by the name Vinea, and after completing Nemesis, addresses it as her mistress, Lady Maineth. After that, we switch back to Shulk's group as they ascend the Bionis' interior before exiting out into a lush forest area called Machna Forest. Machna Forest is technically our 8th explorable area, and at this point, I know the drill. Complete the story section until side quests open up, then explore. As we enter the forest, our perspective switches once more to a band of High-Entia. They're being attacked, or are they attacking, a Telethia? The soldiers of this band gathered together to protect the young woman, Lady Melia, and attack. The Telethia easily dispatches the group, leaving Melia alone. She holds up her staff, gathers the ether in the air, and lets out a destructive attack on the creature.
Bestow the light of your life unto me!
Back to Shulk and his crew, we move deep into the forest until they come upon Melia, unconscious on the forest floor. A little detail here is that all the surrounding color has been drained from the area where they found her. This is because her attack continued to absorb the ether of the living things all around. Ether is the essence of life. Charla says that she has an ether deficiency and sends Shulk off to gather ether crystals for Charla to fire into the air. Shulk leaves by himself, because that's what the plot demands, and finds a large deposit of ether crystals. While collecting the crystals, a boy appears whose voice, and if you've played further entries in the series, his necklace should be familiar.
Hello?
How unusual. It is quite rare to see a Homs in this region. I suppose you're wondering why I am here in that case. Then permit me to introduce myself. My name is Alvis.
Shulk recognizes Alvis from his visions, but before the two can continue their conversation, they are attacked by a Telethia. Shulk fights it, but the strange creature seems to have the same ability as Shulk, as if it can anticipate his every move. Shulk is thrown to the floor and frustrated that none of his attacks are working. Alvis reveals that Telethia can read your mind. He says that you must stop it in its tracks first, then he does this.
No, Alvis, stop! You don't know how to... Huh? A new symbol? That was amazing.
I suggest you stop staring.
Shulk receives the Monado's ability to strip auras, which is one of the more important abilities as there are tons of troublesome enemies with auras later on in the game. For now, we use the ability and easily dispatch the rest of the Telethia. Shulk tries to get more answers from Alvis, but when he turns to him, he's vanished. Rain meets up with Shulk and for whatever reason doesn't believe him when he tells Rain about Alvis. The two head back to Melia and Charla fires the ether into the air.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, she's coming round. All thanks to our medic. Are you okay?
Where am I?
Everything's fine. You're gonna be...
Get your hands off me!
Ah! Hey, watch it!
Forgive me. I did not mean to...
I think this is a great introduction for Melia. She says that she's never spoken to another Homs male, which is confusing to the crew as they think she's Homs as well. Melia is resistant at first to trust them, but realizes that they are her best hope for getting out of the forest alive and continuing her quest for the Telethia. Melia is our 5th party member and perhaps the single most confusing character when it comes to arts and builds. Melia is an ether-based DPS, healer, support, debuffer, and yes, she's as broken as she sounds. Melia can summon up to 3 elements that, well activated, give out area of effect buffs. The thunder element ups ether, the fire element ups strength, the wind element ups agility, and so on. You can then dispel elements for different attacks. What truly makes Melia a devastating party member though is her Spear Break and Starlight Kick combo. This is the best topple combo in the game and will topple almost every single enemy in Xenoblade. The problem with Melia though is that she must be controlled in order to get the most out of her. Melia's AI has no idea how to use the elementals correctly and her timing with Starlight Kick is questionable. Because of this, I chose to pass on her and keep my party of Dunban and Sharla. We head even deeper into the forest until we reach Nopon village. The Nopon are these strange creatures who, like the Homs and Hyentia, are inhabitants of Bionis. They're also a staple of the series, for better or worse. We walk. What the hell is wrong with Melia's walk? Anyway, we walk into the village to find that the Nopon know Melia. They call her Bird Lady, which further confuses the group. Melia introduces Shulk and team to the chief of the Nopon and asks that he gives us passage to the top of the Bionis. Melia will stay behind to finish her mission. Shulk, sensing Melia's apprehension, tells her she can come with them, but she says that she must first defeat the Telethia that killed her attendants. Shulk offers to help and says that he defeated some Telethia earlier. Melia is predictably surprised, so Shulk fills her in on the Monado. We find out that the Telethia Melia seeks, the primary Telethia, is healing somewhere in the forest, and the group decides that they'll hunt it down before it can fully recover. The Nopon chief offers up the hero of the Nopon, or Heropon, Ricky.
Watch out!
Get off me! To you!
Right in the... Take this, bubble! That's not good.
Look, I don't dislike Ricky at all. In fact, I don't dislike the Nopon. But I'd be lying if I said that they don't quite fit in with the vibes of Xenoblade Chronicles. Ricky is our 6th party member, and his build is unique to say the least. He's pretty similar to Dunban in the sense that he can be built in 2 opposite directions, a physical tank or a debuffer DPS. He also has some unique abilities that no other party members share. Ricky's main ability is stealing items from enemies. As you gain more passive skills through the affinity chart, he gets the ability to steal HP, experience, and AP along with items. I've seen builds that involve Ricky, but ultimately he's best as a tank, and unfortunately, Dunban is a better tank. So like Melia, I choose to pass on him and keep my current team. Now with our 2 new party members and a massive amount of Nopon side quests available, we head out to explore Makna Forest. Makna Forest and the next area, Erithsea, are massive zones, but both have a similar issue. The majority of these areas are mostly water, especially Erithsea. It's not a major issue against them, but if you want to discover all the different locations, be ready to swim a lot. I mentioned this before, but there are side quests that require certain weather patterns, and from this point forward, they start becoming much more abundant. Our group tracks down the Telethia and finds it wounded with the surrounding ether being drained from the grass and trees. The fierce battle causes Melia to doubt herself, but Shulk, driven by his own desire for revenge, bolsters her up. This aspect of Shulk is important, so make sure to take note. After taking out the Telethia and admittedly feeling bad about it, Shulk comments that he feels like the Monado is responding to him, understanding his desires before he does. We head back to Nopon village, and through some shenanigans with the chief, Ricky permanently joins our team. Ricky literally adds nothing to this story. You could remove him entirely and absolutely nothing would change. There is a small moment between him, Dunban, and Melia later, but aside from that, and adding another healer, tank, DPS party member, Ricky is just there, I guess. Melia offers to take us up to Erithsea, and it's here where we learn that the Hyentia used to rule the Bionis long before the colonies and Homs existed. We head up to the top of the Nopon village, which is one giant tree, and take some magical spring to the top of the Bionis. Our perspective then changes to a maniacal-looking Hyentia woman, whom I just referred to as Butt Lady. Some of these camera angles are wild. So before we roll into this next section, I need to pause and explain something about my experience. Xenoblade's story to this point has been well paced and full of fun character interactions. This next section though, with the Hyentia, has always felt forced, maybe even rushed to me. You are introduced to an ancient, advanced race and culture, but the game seems to want to speedrun this and get the player to the next story beat, so it feels like important plot points are just thrown at you, and some of the logic behind character choices just doesn't quite make sense. Either way, the payoff once we reach Prison Island is well worth it, so let's move on. Shulk asks Melia when they reach Aerith Sea if she's curious why they wanted to come here. I like the development of Shulk and Melia as you start to sense a growing connection between them, one that is explored somewhat before dropping off completely. Our crew spot Prison Island floating high above. We also see Agnaratha, floating city of the Hyentia. Upon reaching the city, we're met with guards who bow to Melia, calling her Your Highness. She leaves us and our group is taken prisoner behind her back. Melia is the daughter to the Emperor of the Hyentia. She's the birth daughter of his second consort, who must have died at some point because she never shows up. We also find out that Butt Lady, yes, I'm going to stick with that name, is working with the first consort, who is not happy that her son Callian is being overlooked as successor to the throne for Melia. Melia is congratulated for beating the Telethia, which seems to be some sort of test for succession. The first consort doesn't believe that Melia actually killed the Telethia and had hoped she would die in the trial. As if all that wasn't enough, we also find out that the Hyentia arrested Shulk because of a prophecy that said that the Monado would return and destroy their people. Yeah, like I said, there is a lot that is just thrown out there to the player. It's difficult to follow, but I'll try my best to keep us on track. Melia defends Shulk and team while Callian, her brother, supports her. He would be considered for the throne, but he has refused it, believing Melia to be the rightful heir to lead their people. We learn that Butt Lady is the minister and seems to believe that Shulk will be a tool she can use in her schemes. We also find out that Alvis is the Grand Seer of the Hyentia. Okay, so remember I said that this whole section is a mess? Well, here's a great example. So Shulk and crew are let off the hook after both Melia and Callian come to their defense, and they're allowed to stay in Agnaratha. While they're chatting it up, a random soldier comes barging in looking for Alvis. Panicked and unable to find Alvis, he then asks us to investigate a missing worker out on Aerith Sea. What? You literally just arrested me. You have flying ships all around and hundreds of soldiers. Why are we getting sent to do this? Is it because it's a video game? Whatever, we agree and are finally able to explore Aerith Sea. So far in battle, I've stuck to a team of Shulk, Sharla, and Dunban. I mentioned before that Xenoblade's party AI is kinda terrible, and because of that, there are 3 characters you pretty much have to control if you want to use them. Melia's kit is too complicated for the AI to use properly. She's also one of the most abusable party members when it comes to art combinations, and obviously the AI wouldn't use that correctly either. Rain's AI does a serviceable job, but his usefulness rockets up if you control him. His main issue is how stingy his AI is with using arts, especially the AoE arts. Shulk's kit is similar to Melia's, meaning the AI just doesn't know what to do with it. Shulk is a key party member as his Monado arts are important for overcoming deadly blows. Dunban, Sharla, Ricky, and the 7th party member we receive later all have decent AI. Dunban's being one of the best when it comes to tanking since his damage is so high. And let's talk about healing. Xenoblade threw out a lot of the RPG conventions which confused first-time players. After battle, your HP restores itself and there are no usable items. This means that during battle, the only way to heal yourself is via a healing art or passively through different skills. Sharla is given to you early with multiple healing arts because the player most likely hasn't unlocked or discovered passive healing. So up to this point in the story, she's still pretty useful, though her usefulness is about to drop off dramatically as passive healing and increased damage to shorten the time of battle becomes key. We find the missing mechanic on a distant platform of Aerith Sea and return to Agnaratha. The first consort is questioning if Melia actually defeated the Telethia and suggests the trial of the tomb to the Emperor. This trial will be used to prove Melia's worth as heir once and for all. They summon Melia, who accepts the challenge. We also find out that Melia is of mixed heritage. Her mother, the second consort, was a Homs. Apparently this is a long-standing practice of the Hyentia, though it's not explained why at this moment. I mentioned auras back when we fought the Telethia in Magna Forest. Enemies with auras are indicated by a spiky frame around their name card. It's also the single most annoying mechanic an enemy can have. Oops, I fell again. There are auras that damage the player every time they attack, auras that lower a character's accuracy, auras that even daze you. There's so many of them, and they all suck. Aside from spiked defense gems, the only way to get around an aura is with Shulk's Monado art, the one we gained in Magna Forest. This usually means that A, he's required for all aura battles, and B, you pretty much spend the whole battle just stripping aura while your other party members fight. Anyway, I wrap up the side quest for Era C, get caught up on Colony 6 upgrades, and head to Agnaratha, where the Emperor announces that Melia will enter the tomb of their people's ancestors and ask for their blessing. The first consort discusses with Butt Lady her plans to kill Melia while she's inside the tomb, and Melia's brother overhears her plan, which is just the laziest type of writing, I swear. We also find out that a Homs consort is a widely known cultural practice, which has me asking why they hide Melia from the public. This is never explained. You see what I mean by this section of the story? It's jumbled, awkward, and sometimes even fails to make sense. The first consort's assassins show up in our room to kill us and stop us from helping Melia. This is the first time we've faced human enemies, and cleverly, the Monado doesn't work on them. Alvis and Callian show up to stop the assassination, but we already took care of them. Alvis foresaw the attack and had rushed to help. Who is Alvis? Similar to Dixon, his clothing is so different from everyone else. Also, we know he was the voice in Shulk's visions, so he's been connected to Shulk long before they met. Unfortunately, we only get more questions after speaking with him. Shulk offers to head into the tomb to save Melia. Callian is resistant until Dunman points out that we're not Hyentia, and so the rules don't apply to them. Yeah, alright, sure, whatever, let's get going. Inside the ruins, we find that they aren't some ancient sepulchre, but a computer system that scans the royal family for their DNA. The computer system explains to Melia that it's a replica of her ancient ancestry, and that its purpose, given to it by the emperors of old, is to integrate the Hyentia's genes with the Homs. This is by far the most interesting plot point presented in this story section, but we still don't know why that is. Our crew enter the tomb, but are denied entry by the computer. Rain, for whatever reason, does this.
Don't touch. Huh?
Now inside the tomb, Shulk races ahead to try and find Melia before the assassins. And I fell again. As Melia enters the center of the tomb, she is attacked by the first consort's assassins and a Telethia. Shulk and crew show up just in time, and I slowly let the others take out the assassin, because she's a living thing. Okay. Welp. This assassin's name is Tyrea, and she will become important in the DLC, but for now, we save Melia and hurry back to tattle on the first consort. Having finally wrapped up the terrible Hyentia arc of the story, Shulk meets with the Emperor to have one of the more important exchanges in the game. The Emperor asks why they are pursuing the Mechon, and Shulk admits it's for revenge. It's here that the Emperor reveals the prophecy about the Monado. You see, the Hyentia's ancestors left a warning to their people that if the Monado appears, that the Bionis will come back to life and their people would be destroyed. Shulk isn't sure what to say to this and tells the Emperor they aren't going to destroy his people. He asks if they can go to Prison Island. The Emperor reveals that something has been sealed there on that island and refuses entry to our group. The Emperor then makes a request of Shulk.
Yes?
I ask this not as Emperor Saurian Antiqua, but as a father. I do not demand that you act as Melia's protector, but I would be honored if you would be her friend.
Our perspective then shifts to the Mechon. They've developed a new weapon to counter the Monado, a spear with a strange green liquid inside. The leader of the Mechon says some stuff that at this point is completely confusing, before we switch to Alvis's perspective. Apparently he prophesied to the Emperor the current events long before Shulk appeared. He meets with Butt Lady and they discuss fulfilling his dream, whoever that is. I'm definitely starting to question Alvis's intentions. Shulk and the others attend Melia's coronation now that she's completed the trial. They head up to her villa and she reveals her small wings atop her head for the first time. Melia explains every emperor, or empress I'm assuming, takes on two consorts, a Hyentia and a Hom. Because of this, Melia wasn't allowed to show herself in public and spent most of her life in hiding. Again, I have to ask, why? Why does she need to hide if a Hom's consort is known to the people? Maybe the second consort's not. I just didn't catch that. Who knows? Unfortunately, while speaking with Melia, Mechon attack Agnaratha. The Emperor, despite knowing the future that is to come, heads to Prison Island where he'll use whatever is locked away inside to defend his people. Alvis tells our group about the Emperor's actions, and after some back and forth with Callian, who tells us to trust his father, we decide to head to Prison Island. I've yet to discuss this, but the mech designs for the Mechon are wholly unique, aside from Silverface, who looks pretty generic. The original designs was conceptualized by Tetsuya Takahashi, while modeling was done by Yasuyuki Hone. Honestly, they did a great job here. As the series progresses, the mech designs become more in line with what is popular, mainly Gundam-style designs. But the thin joints, spindly bodies, and pointy features of the Mechon stand the test of time for me. The Emperor makes it to the top of the island as an army of ancient flying creatures fight off the Mechon. The Emperor engages the island's prison, and a massive humanoid being shackled to pillars appears. This giant says that the Emperor's ancestors locked him away long ago. Using this giant's power, the Emperor deploys a weapon from this island that starts to blow away the Mechon. Shulk and the team make it to the top as well, and the giant, Zanza, greets Shulk.
Welcome, true heir to the Monado.
He says that the Monado is in shackles and that he can release those shackles. Melia tells Shulk to be careful and that she doesn't trust the giant, but Shulk, his mind on revenge, agrees to having the Monado unlocked. Zanza unseals the power of the Monado just as Metalface launches a spear through his chest. The strange liquid works against the giant, and just as he's about to die, the Silverface Mechon shows up and pleads with Zanza. Metalface attacks our group and reveals the secret of the Face Mechon. Inside the machines are placed Hom bodies. The blood of the Homs is then passed through the mech as a defense against the Monado's power. That's the reason Shulk's weapon doesn't damage them. Also, for whatever reason, Shulk doesn't understand this, so it needs to be explained to us later, but whatever. We finally find out that Mumkar, Dunban's companion during the war, was the body placed inside Metalface. He gained a new body, but retained his memories from before. Metalface attacks Melia, and the Emperor throws himself between the two, protecting his daughter. The Emperor dies, and Shulk, enraged, asks Zanza to finally unlock the Monado.
Mechon. It's not over. The people of Bionis will never let you triumph.
The Monado transforms, and with it, Shulk gains the power to cut all matter, including Homs. He fights Metalface, and just as he's ready to inflict the final blow, Silverface saves him. Shulk hits the mech, revealing a body inside.
Look at him. The Monado was changed.
Good. Now you feel it. Swing the blade to your heart's content.
Wait. Is this what you truly desire, Zanza?
I see now. It is as I suspected. You exist outside the pre-established harmony.
Is that... Homs? No way.
Fiora's body was used inside the Silver Mechon, though unlike Mumkar, she seems to be an entirely different person. The Mechon retreat, leaving the Emperor to die in Melia's arms. At this point, I started to notice something about Shulk. The story frames his quest for revenge in an altruistic light, yet it's really only brought a bunch of death and destruction to the people of the Bionis. Despite this, Shulk asks Melia to come with them and seek revenge for her father. We then shift over to Alvis, who seems to have a history with Zanza. He states that he does what is necessary for the world, which sounds ominous. Back in our villa, Shulk and Dunban ponder the idea that Fiora may still be alive, despite not being herself.
But Shulk, don't get me wrong. I'm not sad. Even if she doesn't recognize me, I'm glad to know she's alive.
After this, the two decide that they're going to get Fiora back. Also, Melia asks about Fiora, having an interest in her and Shulk's relationship. I think one thing to note here is how complex the relationships of our party members are. Dunban is the previous wielder of the Monado. Melia is a proud empress who finds herself romantically interested in Shulk, though her pride would never admit it. Melia tells Shulk he needs to go after the one he loves, and thus starts the tragedy of Melia. From this point forward, she becomes so irrelevant in the story that I forget she's there. Melia says she'll stay in Alchemoth and act as ambassador for the gathering Bionis Alliance. But Callian has other plans. He reveals Melia's decoy and says she should go with them to seek revenge for their father. Melia agrees, and Alvis asks to join our group. He states that we need to travel through Valak Mountain to Galahad Fortress. Also, we get peak Sharla as they leave.
Why are you still here? Listen, I'll keep an eye on Shulk for you. Whatever can you mean? Well, it's a risky strategy, letting Shulk go off and just hoping he'll come back to you. Shulk and I are merely... Yeah. But remember, the longer he's away, the more chance his feelings for you will fade. But once we find this Fiora, I will personally whisk him back here in a heartbeat. Don't give up. I appreciate it. Great. Don't worry, Melia. I'm on your side.
I have to say that as the game continued, I felt the side quests just get more annoying. There's nothing like grinding low-level enemies for rare items, only to get an inventory full of sweaty cloths.
Take this! You never stood a chance.
Okay, let's get going.
1 out of 5? I'd rather have fewer side quests with more thought put into them than this laundry list of tasks, but whatever. I wrap up what I can and head to Valak Pass. Valak is a breathtakingly beautiful area. It's all downhill, which makes traversal a lot more interesting than past areas, and the music is an absolute vibe. Anyone who's played this title, though, knows that the true gem of Valak Pass is the out-of-control ice physics. There's this ice tube you slide down, but due to how fall damage works, if you slide off or jump at the wrong time, you just die. It's so broken it's funny. This almost feels like something the devs threw in at the last minute. While traveling through Valak, our perspective changes to Fiora, who's being referred to as Lady Maineth. Lady Maineth is contemplating with Vinea, the one who originally revived her, why Zanza would free the Monado and why choose Shulk. Back to Shoal's group, Alvis asks if they can stop at a certain location, one we've seen before. After traveling down the mountain, we reach Ose Tower. This is where the Monado was found and where Shulk's parents died. It's here where Alvis explains how their future vision works.
Have you always been able to see the future? You told me you were from a long line of seers. Did you have the ability from birth?
Once, I too came into contact with the Monado. Those that are to be seers must touch the Monado, and a chosen few receive our power. That is the ceremony of my family.
Silverface shows up shortly after, but Metalface interrupts before Lady Maineth can explain what's going on. He takes Fiora hostage and taunts our group before Melia gets the slip on him. We then go into like our 100th fight with this guy. I guess this is as good a time as any to talk about the Monado arts. Every character has a special art whose cooldown fills every time you perform a standard attack. Dunban's is a high damaging 3-hit combo that absolutely shreds the enemy. Melia's is dispersing her summons, and Ricky's is the steal ability I spoke of earlier. Shulk's is an entirely separate art palette of Monado arts. These arts are incredibly useful, especially in the late game. They will often buff your party or debuff the enemy. The problem is that the devs got cute and made each one of the arts a Monado symbol, which makes them impossible to tell apart. You either need to use the recommended art, which isn't always the best one to use in the moment, or you need to memorize the placement of your arts. It's not like a huge thing, but it is super annoying. So are these scripted battles. Mumkar's motives are made clear as he scolds Dunban for always being the hero. A gold mechon appears, which the pilot, Egil, says is the strongest ever produced. This is the leader of the Mechon. He mentions the name Maineth, who seems to be their god, and takes Fiora back with him.
Fiora! Get your hands off her! Fiora!
If you want her, come and get her. You are more than welcome on Mechonis. Come and visit any time, Dunban!
Munka! We're coming! And we won't give up!
Find us, Monado, Sword of the Bionis. We will meet you on the battlefield.
Fiora! We will find you! Fiora!
We make it through the pass and onto the Bionis' wrist, which the different locations of the world being parts of the Bionis is such an intriguing idea. Upon reaching Sword Valley, we get our first look at the new alliance. Alvis arranged for us to restock here before we head to Galahad Fortress. Dixon leads the alliance group and we fill him in on Fiora. After resupplying, Alvis leaves with Dixon and we continue our march to the Mechonis. Sword Valley is literally the sword of the Mechonis stabbed into the abdomen of the Bionis. There's a ton of environmental storytelling going on here. No other area has ever made me feel like I'm just an ant on the Bionis more than this. Green ether flows like a river down the blade, which is the blood of the Bionis. It would seem the Mechon are harvesting the ether to be used in their spears. Also, if you were paying attention, this is where our story started with Dunban in the war. Once we reach Galahad Fortress, our perspective switches to Egil, leader of the Mechon. He, like Lady Maineth, is wondering why Zanza would unlock the Monado, as all it did was give it the power to destroy life on Bionis. He also doesn't understand why Shulk, a normal boy, would be chosen to wield it. Upon reaching the fortress, we are confronted once again by Mumkar. While taunting the group about people being inside the face Mechon, Charla thinks Gatto might still be alive or something, whatever. And we find out that the green ether is like acid to living beings. We then have our final battle with Mumkar. Dunban races forward with rage in his sword, but is stopped by none other than Shulk.
Get out of my way, Shulk! It's Mumkar! He's not a Mechon! Have you forgotten everything he's done? Where is your killer instinct? Now is the time! I hate him, Dunban! For what he did to Fiora and the Emperor! So of course I want to get my revenge!
Shulk.
But... Face Mechon are not like the others. They're people. Like us. Are you really willing to kill another Homs? Yes. Sometimes needs must. Even if it's Fiora. What then? When we set out, I wanted to destroy all Mechon. That was my aim. But now, I know that there are people inside. I have to know why.
Dunban stays his blade, but Mumkar, driven by his selfish loathing, fights on.
Mumkar!
No! No! Not like this!
Cutting to Butt Lady, who is studying the spears, we find out that her, Alvis, and Dixon of all people have some sort of connection. It's at this point that I figured something weird is going on with these three. Shulk and the others dive deep into Galahad Fortress, which is another dungeon I'm not entirely fond of. It's not bad, but it tries to be a little more involved, with you having to turn off a generator, but mostly it's just our group walking around small cramped hallways fighting Mechon. The Mechon are starting to get old. The fact that Shulk has to enchant his party in every battle has started to slow the pace quite a bit. What started as a clever story mechanic has slowly turned into a nuisance, and in these halls, there's no getting around some of these fights. Either way, we make it to the depths of the fortress where we find Fiora. This boss battle was absolute chaos. I had no idea what was going on, and someone in this group of Mechon had a spiked aura that slowly chipped away at our health. We defeat the accompanying Mechon, but retreat as to not have to fight Fiora. Somehow, Egil has suppressed Lady Maineth, turning Silverface into a mindless Mechon. Dumbman calls out to his sister and is finally able to break through to her. Egil, irritated at the group of Homs, engages a power called the Apophrika, which cancels out ether waves. The Monado deactivates and Shulk is unable to fight with it. Egil demands the Monado, but Shulk refuses. The next boss fight was probably one of the hardest I've ran up against so far. At this point, because I rushed through Sword Valley and Galahad Fortress, I was actually slightly underleveled. We struggle through the boss and are defeated by Egil. Fiora, conscious somewhere deep inside, pleads with Lady Maineth to help.
Help Shulk!
Maineth attacks Egil and is able to deactivate the Apophrika long enough to engage the Monado. She overpowers Egil and blows up the fortress in order to take him out. Our group struggles to stay on, but Shulk, unwilling to lose Fiora, throws himself off of the sword and into the ocean below. Back at the Alliance, Dixon and Callian are discussing an attack now that the fortress has been compromised. Dixon says he's going to go after Shulk and the others and knows where they are. We then cut to a dream Shulk is having. Someone who looks just like him says he doesn't belong here, and Shulk finds himself falling into the ground. He wakes up on a strange beach where he discovers the wreckage of Silverface. Pulling Fiora's body out from inside, he realizes she's still alive. He quickly gathers some water for her to drink before being treated to the single best moment of this entire game.
Huh? Fiora, you're awake. Do you remember? My name is
I can't believe it. My first kiss.
The amount of setup that went into this moment is a masterclass of build-up. Fiora never forgot Shulk, but is now sharing her body with another, Lady Maineth. Shulk thinks of Maineth as their enemy, but Fiora disagrees. She defends her, saying that she did everything to protect them and fight Egil. Because of this, Fiora wants to help her. These two together are so cute. Anyway, we start exploring the beach, but Fiora quickly becomes fatigued, saying she's not used to her new mechanical body. They decide to set up camp, and Shulk tries to activate the Monado, but unfortunately the Apophrika's effects are still holding him back. This gets a little confusing because nothing changes in battle, but just remember that the Monado is being suppressed from this point forward. These two are so cute. Fiora states that her body has some advantages as it only needs water to live. She says it so flippantly that it's kind of jarring. In a moment of weakness, she tells Shulk that he can leave her since she's no longer human.
What?
I mean, look at me, Shulk. This body is a Mechon body. So I should live here on Mechonis. This is where I belong.
You don't have to do that.
The Fiora you knew is dead. Just think of it like that. It's for the best.
But I can see it's not true. I mean, you're right here. I'll never forget how I felt when I thought I'd lost you back at the colony. I should have done something. I thought if only I had the power to save you.
Shulk.
No. No more regrets. I will protect you.
Mechon attacks Shulk and Fiora, but Shulk, determined not to lose Fiora again, is able to activate the Monado despite the Apophrika.
Come on, Monado. Don't let me down.
The Monado bends to your will.
No.
I won't let you take her from me. This time, I will protect Fiora. Yes, the Monado's light.
Elsewhere, we find that Rain and Charla washed up on a beach as well. She thanks him for protecting her during the fall. Rain is frustrated, saying that he didn't hold up his promise to Fiora. He didn't protect Shulk. This is probably the most sincere moment between the two, and despite there being no previous hint of a budding romance, Rain says this.
Back there, were you talking about that guy Gaddo?
Not just about him. Why do you ask?
Oh, nothing. Just, you know, seems like tough competition for a guy like me.
I was under the impression that Charlotte was much older than Rain, but hey, that's cool. The two start exploring before they come upon Shulk and Fiora. The different character moments in this section of the story are just fantastic. The group of Charla, Shulk, Rain, and Fiora continue forward before they are discovered by humanoid-looking people. We then shift perspective to the rest of the crew. Dunban, Ricky, and Melia are trying to find the others before Ricky announces that he's tired and needs to rest. Melia says she's not tired, but once they make camp, she instantly falls asleep. Dunban realizes that Ricky wasn't tired at all, but knew Melia was too prideful to say anything. This moment between Dunban and Ricky is one of the few developments our no-pun companion gets in the story. The next morning, the three travel to a small encampment where they find the others. Dunban is relieved to see Fiora, and Melia is conflicted. Although it ultimately goes nowhere, I like this bit of jealousy Melia has for Fiora and Shulk. We meet Lenata, who proceeds to tell us that these Homs-like machine people are called the Machina, the true beings of the Mechonis. She says she's a mechanic and can help fix Fiora's body, at least for the time being, but we'll need some parts. Charla offers to stay with Fiora, and the rest of us go to meet with the leader of this band of Machina. Okay, there's a lot of lore dumped on us here, so I'll try to keep things tight. This fat abomination is Mikkel, and he is the father of Egil and Vinea. We find out that long ago, Egil and Zanza were friends, but after an event, he swore vengeance on the Bionis. We also find out here that just like Zanza, who essentially is the Bionis, Lady Mayneth was, or I guess still is, the Mechonis. These two are the ones who battled in the opening. Mikkel asks us to kill Egil as his obsession with revenge has led him to hurt not only the people of the Bionis, but the Machina as well. Shulk isn't sure about this and asks for some time to think about it. Afterwards, Lenata says that all Fiora's organs have been replaced with machines, and they need a unit to repair her. Shulk and the others set off to explore this new location and find the part. This tropical location our party finds themselves on is the severed hand of the Mechonis. I think this might be one of the single most original locations I've ever explored in an RPG. The village of the Machina is in the palm, and each finger, or digit, of the Mechonis looms like some towering mountain. I love exploring this place, as it was dense with things to do, but not so large that you felt like you had to travel across the map just to get anywhere. We gather up the units and return to the hidden village. After delivering the unit, Lenata tells Shulk to get some rest. Dixon shows up, which surprised the group, but doesn't seem to surprise Mikkel. Apparently, Dixon knew about the Machina the whole time, but didn't tell the Homs in order to protect them. Yeah, this guy is sus. Mikkel once again asks if Shulk will kill Egil. Dixon subtly pushes him to do so as well. Shulk believes there's another way, but agrees that he'll head to the Mechonis. Mikkel says to contact his daughter Vinea, who stayed with Egil but is on their side. She will help the group. Fiora finally wakes up, but Lenata says that the repairs are only temporary. She says that she'll look for a way to restore her body to normal. Switching over to Egil, he still doesn't understand why Silverface betrayed him. I didn't realize this, but I guess Egil doesn't know that Silverface is Lady Mayneth. Egil decides that he'll erase all memories of the Homs placed inside the Face Mechon, which seems like something he should have done from the beginning. Oh, and I guess Gaddo's alive. Whatever. Now that Fiora is repaired, we finally receive our 7th and final party member. Fiora is entirely different from the others, as she has unique equipment that not just determines which gems she uses, but also determines her unique art. Fiora's mechanical body is the pinnacle of design in this game. She looks absolutely amazing. Fiora is another full-on DPS. She can be built as a tank, but she's the worst of the 4 options. Her damage is wild, and despite my best efforts, she often absorbed the aggro of the enemies. Despite this, I switched her out for Charla to make our endgame team of Shulk, Dunban, and Fiora. At this point, I decided to get all caught up on side content. There are a few mid to late game things that open up to you by this point. For one, every party member has 2 additional branches of passive skills that are unlocked by completing specific side quests. I leveled up Colony 6 and tried my hand at a Mechon super boss. Yeah, he whooped my butt. After completing everything I could, we head to the Mechonis.
Oh, it's so different, seeing them from this kind of perspective.
We cannot see it from here, but our people are still fighting up there.
It's difficult to believe that 2 such huge things ever fought each other. I wonder how the Machina felt at the time.
Must have been horrible.
Scary too.
Fear robs us of reason. Out of fear, we commit terrible atrocities and call them acts of self-preservation.
Fear gives rise to more fear. A never-ending circle of hatred.
Perhaps that circle can be broken.
Fear. It must be what's driving this. What's made Egil act this way.
Oh.
Having originally been published for the Wii and remastered for the Switch, this title is still a marvel of technical achievement. This entire level is all in-engine. I still can't believe they were able to do this. We travel up through the Mechonis until we find an encampment of Machina. Fiora, her body fatigued, says she needs to rest, and so we make camp. Charlotte cleans Gatto's rifle, pondering their past relationship. Remembering Gatto's single-minded determination, a determination that led to his own death, she asks Rain a question.
Hey, Ryan.
What is it?
Do you want to beat the Mechon?
Of course. What are you asking that for?
At any cost? Even if it means giving your own life?
Giving my own life? No way, I can't do anything if I'm dead. I'm gonna take down the Mechon and survive. And there's no way I'm gonna lose Shulk, Fiora, or you along the way. We're all gonna win this and get out alive.
If only we all thought like you.
What do you mean?
It's charming.
What?
We head up a little further, but again, Fiora's body begins to tire. They decide to rest, but Shulk, sensing an attack, jumps to action. He thought he saw the future, but actually, he didn't. Instead, he just knew something was coming, as if the Monado and his own mind had begun to merge. A new face Mechon appears, and Charla recognizes its voice. This is easily one of the most unique boss battles in the game. Gatto fires attacks from across the battlefield, and you need to stop behind these walls in order to avoid them. We reach Gatto, and Charla pleads with him to remember her. This guy's new design is epic. Egil starts speaking through Gatto, and Maineth, seeing no way out, activates the strange piece in her chest, the very thing Maineth's consciousness is held. We then switch to Egil's perspective, where he searches the gathered Hom's memories he stole from his victims. He claims that peace is nearly at hand and says that he knows Zanza is still alive. We then see that the Mechonis is coming to life. Back to our group, Shulk is suspended in space, Alvis's voice all around him. Alvis asks Shulk again why he wants to change the future. He then says that Shulk must find his Monado. We wake up next to the others. Everyone survived the blast because Lady Maineth used her powers. Also, Vinaya shows up and... damn. Vinaya greets Fiora, or Lady Maineth, and begins to explain to our group the history of the Machina people. First of all, Shulk keeps on asking why they made the face Mechon, which I feel is fairly obvious. Originally, the Monado couldn't cut people, only machines. So how do you counteract that? By putting a human inside the machine. It's explained that Zanza lifted the constraints from the Monado, allowing Shulk to access its full power against the Mechon. We find out that Zanza long ago turned on the Machina and destroyed their capital. It's here where Vinaya takes us next. While Shulk and the others are searching the Mechonis for Egil, the Alliance readies themselves for war.
This is a battle to determine not just our own fates, but the future of all life on Bionis. We fight for future prosperity and the glory and honor of all. Troops, advance!
So this seemed as good a spot as any to pause the story progression and get caught up on the side content, and oh my gosh, this stuff is getting tedious. The late game side quests ask for rarer and rarer items or more difficult marks to hunt. I had this idea to use Ricky's steal ability to try and optimize item drops, but it didn't work very well. What I found worked the best was the trade system. Every NPC in the game has items you can trade, and if you know what you're looking for, you can use this nifty list view to scope out the NPC's tradables. This was much faster than grinding low-level enemies, so I traded around until I had everything I needed to progress Colony 6 to a stopping point. After wrapping all that up, I headed to Agnaratha. Agnaratha is an area that I have complex feelings about. The music and atmosphere is amazing, might be some of the best in the game. It's located in the head of the Mechonis and has long since been abandoned. Vinea tells of the war with Zanza long ago. As you explore, you find fossilized Telethia throughout, which attack the city. We also finally get to hear from Lady Mayneth via Fiora. Mayneth is the soul of the Mechonis and was worshipped by the people she created, the Machina. There was peace between the Mechonis and the Bionis until one day, Zanza attacked. As we know, they battled, and Zanza, weakened after their draw, was captured and sealed away by the Hyentia. Shulk realized that by unsealing Zanza, he may have prompted the destruction of both the people of the Bionis and the Mechonis once more. Vinea says that she implanted Mayneth's spirit into Fiora's body once she realized that Zanza was on the move once more. She also knew that Fiora was connected to the heir of the Monado, hoping this would deter him from killing her, which honestly was a good call. At this point, Shulk starts to distrust the Monado, wondering if Zanza's influence could be felt through it. They decide to continue onward and speak with Egil, hoping to appeal to him before the war escalates even further. I mentioned that Agnaratha had me split. It's most definitely a cool area and even a little fun to explore, but as you finish up the story section, you have dozens of side quests dumped on you from some monitors and are given the arbitrary task of reactivating the warp stations. This is, without a doubt, filler to try and keep you in Agnaratha. I imagine the devs saw it a waste not to force us to hang out here a little longer. Also, this area has the same issue as Galahad Fortress. The Mechon are just annoying enemies to fight, and that's all you go up against. Most of the enemies have proximity aggro, so avoiding battle is nearly impossible. I scraped my way through Agnaratha, did a few more side quests, created some endgame gems, and unlocked Fiora's absolutely busted 5th skill branch. We turn on the generators of the warp station and are attacked by Gadot. Again, Shulk senses an attack without needing to see a vision. Sharla begs for Gadot to come back to his senses, but he seemingly ignores her pleas. I say seemingly because no matter what he does, he doesn't seem to attack Sharla. Lady Mayneth activates and says she needs time to break the curse upon him. We are thrown into a boss fight, and I get absolutely obliterated. Multiple times. This is irritating, as I didn't lack levels or even good equipment. What I lacked was the insight to level up one of Shulk's Monado abilities. You see, as you battle enemies, you gain experience, but you also gain AP that then is used to upgrade arts. With Shulk specifically, you have 2 entire art palettes to choose from, and seeing as AP is sparse, I chose to focus on his regular art palette and a few of the Monado arts, like aura stripping. This left me with no ability to counter Gadot's pretty much instant death attack, which means it's grind time. I did a tour of the older areas, now being of high enough level to explore most of what I couldn't before. I also took the time to take out a bunch of the unique enemies I may have missed. Luckily, Gadot waited patiently for me to get back. I finally beat Gadot, and Mayneth, through Fiora, subdues him. He regains his memories and begs Shulk and the party to defeat Egil. Rain and Gadot have a moment, and Gadot asks him to take care of Sharla. Frankly, I'm surprised Sharla is leaving him here, but to be honest, their relationship was never really developed anyway. Back at the war, Alvis says something doesn't feel right as the Mechon begin to retreat. He senses that Shulk and the others are in danger as the Mechonis begins to awaken. As Shulk confronts Egil inside the head of the Mechonis, we see that Egil is truly blinded by his hatred, unable to see how his choices are hurting the people of Mechonis as much as they are the Bionis and Zanza. Shulk asks him why he sent Mechon to kill the Homs. Egil replies with this.
I don't see the joke. We share the same world. The Homs, Nopon, and Hyentia live in harmony. So why not the Machina too?
Tell me, boy, are you familiar with the concept of starvation tactics?
Of course.
A military strategy in which you cut the supply lines and starve out the enemy.
So, then you understand that that is the best method by which to ensure victory. I have no resentment or hatred for the peoples of Bionis. I am simply depleting the Bionis energy.
The Homs are just food for the Bionis, so he's starving it out. We jump into a boss fight with Egil and dispatch him. Egil, wounded, lashes out, but his sister Vinea pleads with him to stop what he's doing. He states that the Machina betrayed him, and we head into a scripted battle. Okay, let's talk about this. Xenoblade pulls this a lot. In between long story beats, you are thrust into battles to break up the cutscenes. I think this works in titles whose battle systems seamlessly move from cutscene to gameplay. Take the Final Fantasy VII Remake titles. Cutscene and battle move into each other perfectly. The Xenoblade battle system isn't so seamless, so moving from an epic cutscene where characters are battling each other in heated combat to this cooldown-based battle system never really hits the mark. What's worse is half the time, or maybe like 90% of the time, these story battles are scripted, meaning you were meant to lose them, or just get the enemy to half-life. Look how stupid this is. I got Egil in a topple combo loop that I could have continued forever. I had to choose to just stop fighting him in order to progress the story. Anyway, we let Egil beat us, and just as Egil is about to kill Shulk, calling him Zanza, Fiora, being controlled by Meyneth, saves him. Egil unleashes a devastating blast, calling Meyneth a traitor. His plan finally coming to fruition, he replaces Meyneth as the soul of the Mechonis and awakens the Titan from its long slumber. The team retreat back to the city, but Gato is nowhere to be seen. Charlotte freaks out, but Rain reminds her that they have to save Juju and Otharon. Energy begins to coalesce within the Mechonis, exploding out and destroying the capital. As our party runs, the explosion of energy catches up to them, Shulk moving to cover Fiora before a face Mechon dives in front of everyone. Gato says that he's glad he could get there in time, and Charlotte cries out as his Mechon body takes the force of the blast.
It's you!
Gato!
I've fulfilled my promise. Live, Charlotte.
The energy Egil gathered fires out in a beam of light, and the Mechonis begins to attack the emotionless corpse of the Bionis. Back with Shulk and crew, Meyneth once again uses her power to suspend them outside the Mechonis, saving their lives. The Mechonis begins to attack the Bionis with its sword, but the party has bigger problems as Meyneth's power runs out. Luckily, the Machina with their ship, the Junks, shows up and saves the crew. Dixon is aboard, and together they decide that they'll fly into the back of the Mechonis and get to its core. This is the point of no return for the entirety of the Mechonis, but luckily most quest lines are easily wrapped up before you get here. As we head back to stop Egil, Vinea and Fiora have a conversation.
Vinea!
I am sorry. For Lady Meyneth's will to be realized, I had no choice but to use your body. Even so...
Actually, I'm grateful. Thanks to this body, I got to see Shulk and the others again.
Where is Lady Meyneth now?
Shall I call her? She is usually asleep. Maybe she just doesn't want to disturb me. It's an unusual feeling. 2 hearts in one body. It's not every day you get to experience something like this.
With Alvis and Dixon joining us, the Junks storms the Mechonis. Something like a Star Wars scene plays out before we break out into the Mechonis' interior once more. Shulk is weighed down by Egil's words, especially when he called him Zanza. Shulk says that the Monado isn't at full strength and he can't beat Egil as it is now. Vinea suggests that we take out the generator powering the Apotheca. As they're speaking, Shulk mentions that he hasn't seen a vision for a long while.
Ryan, you're going to scratch your head with your right hand.
What are you on about, Shulk? Stop playing around.
Oh. But how did you do that? I can't work it out. Ever since we came to Mechonis, my abilities have been changing. Why would that happen? If it's true that Zanza used the Monado to lay waste to Mechonis, then... is it right for me to use it? Is what I'm trying to do really the right thing?
Shulk experiences something similar to what Dunban did back in the war.
Shulk! What's wrong?
No!
He recovers, unsure why the Monado hurt him. As they head to the generator, Shulk remembers his dream where another version of himself told him that he's not here anymore. Fiora notices his internal struggle, and they have another adorable moment.
Fiora!
Shulk, what were you thinking about?
Nothing.
So... it's like that, is it?
Really, it's nothing.
Listen, Shulk. If it's too hard for you to handle on your own, talk to me. Huh?
Fiora...
You can tell any of the others as well. We're all here for you. Don't forget that.
You're right. You're here for me.
Of course. And don't overdo it, okay? We all saw what happened. Is your arm okay?
Yeah, it's not bad. I'll live.
Oi! You two! Is something up?
No! It's nothing. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
It's like the devs just want to shit on Melia. I love it. Anyway, so before we jump into the next story section, we are given a side quest from one of the Machina aboard the Junks. This quest requires you to backtrack all the way down the Mechonis to the very bottom. And no, you can't just jump. I tried that. I think this is an attempt from the dev team to get you to go back and clean up anything you may have missed. I backtracked all the way down and got a unique weapon for Fiora that, unfortunately, sucks. Like I said, slots will always be better than stats. So we head all the way back up and get to the Apotheca generator. We jump into a boss fight with the generator and easily beat it before the Monado gains its power back.
Oh my!
Again, this is a little confusing as nothing changed in battle. It was just narratively. I think it might have been interesting if Shulk had lost health or something while the Apotheca was activated, but whatever. Dixon and Alvis have a private conversation where Dixon says they're back on track. Alright, what is going on with these two? We confront Egil, who at this point has completely lost his mind. He calls Shulk successor to Zanza, and we are thrown into a terribly designed boss fight. You see, you can only attack Egil from the front. As you can imagine, this means that literally every single art of Shulk's, which need to be from the side or back, are essentially useless. I actually used a combo from the side and it damn near broke the game. I'm so disappointed because this boss fight was pretty much built up from the very beginning. Something that does need to be said though is the design of the boss fight. Check this out. The Mechonis outside is mimicking all of Egil's attacks. So cool. I defeat Egil and Shulk, enraged, goes crazy on the Mechon leader. Fiora tries to stop him, but a voice eggs him on.
Yes, finish him. End it. It is what you want.
Yes, I want to. I'll kill him. For Fiora. For the Emperor. For my home!
You must find your Monado. Are you ready?
Are you feeling hungry, eh? Chew on this, scrap for brains.
Kill a Homs to beat us.
Egil once wished only to break the circle of suffering.
Until I've scrapped each and every one of you!
Maynard, the villagers, everyone loved you. Every person.
Yes.
That is why they wish to live alongside you.
End it. The wait
It's
is
all
what
so
you
clear.
want.
To Maynard and to me.
No! This isn't what I want!
Shulk! No! Brother!
Shulk spares Egil's life. They discuss Egil's past and memories. The giant we saw on Prison Island wasn't Zanza, but Egil's friend Oglis. Oglis was possessed by Zanza when he found the Monado. The Monado is Zanza. Mayneth fought to break the curse of Zanza, but ended up in a long slumber of recovery. Shulk reaches out his hand, offering to work together to restore peace to the Mechonis and the Bionis.
No!
Dixon?
Dixon kills the real Shulk, allowing Zanza to finally fully possess his host, now that he's dead. We find out here that Zanza's body and soul were separated long ago, only leaving his soul to possess the flesh of the Bionis. When Shulk's parents found the Monado long ago, Shulk died as well, but Dixon, working with Zanza, provided him a host in Shulk, so the little boy was brought back to life. The others ask why Shulk, and Zanza simply replies, because he was there. The Bionis awakens now that Zanza is revived, and with it, he beheads the Mechonis. Meyneth activates the piece in Fiora's chest, which we find out is another Monado, weapon of fate. Remember what I said about scripted battles? This is what I'm talking about. Look how awkward this is.
This battle is mine, Meyneth.
Meyneth and Zanza fight, Zanza commenting that the Homs are just bacteria on his body. He says that only a god gets to make decisions, but Meyneth disagrees. She decides to sacrifice herself to stop Zanza once and for all, and leaves Fiora's body, her own Monado appearing. Meyneth dies, but it isn't enough to stop Zanza. He takes hold of her Monado, and now has the power of the gods. Prison Island sinks down into the Bionis, beginning the ceremony of destruction. The Titan's power activates, which begins to change the Hyentia into Telethia, soldiers of Zanza. Back on the Mechonis, Egil tells Vinea to get everyone out, and that Shulk can be saved. Rain takes hold of Shulk's body, and we notice that the crest on Fiora's chest is gone. Egil protects Junks as it escapes, but soon after, Zanza, using the Bionis and the Monados, destroys the Mechonis. Still in danger, the others turn their attention to an approaching cloud of creatures. Telethia attack, Dixon leading them. We find out that he is one of 3 disciples of Zanza, working for him in order to obtain eternal life. Butt Lady, the second disciple, cackles as she sends out a light that transforms the Hyentia around them into Telethia. The Hyentia were always dormant soldiers of Zanza's. The Emperor of the Hyentia made a practice of mixing Hyentia and Homs because the Hom blood would stop their transformation. This is why Melia doesn't transform, but Callian does. Callian fights it, saying goodbye to Melia before turning on Butt Lady. We then switch to Shulk's consciousness. It still exists somewhere, but Shulk, finally understanding what his purpose was, laments his existence. Our crew make it back to Colony 6 where Shulk is in a deep coma. Alvis is there with them and questions if they can stand up to a god. Fiora needs some air and steps out of Junks, Melia following.
Fiora, are you alright?
Guess I wasn't hiding it well. I didn't want to worry anyone.
It must be difficult living with that body.
I'm getting more and more used to it. But people still look at me funny. Oh, it's not that bad. It feels pretty comfortable, actually. I don't need to worry about food or anything like that.
I see.
This body, the energy from the chest component made it work. It turned out to be a Monado. Such a strange feeling.
A Monado? Was that the Monado that Zanza took from Meyneth? Will your body cease to function?
I'll be fine for now. There's still some stored energy left.
But then what?
Oh, Melia, if I ever... Please take care of Shulk.
Don't talk like that.
This is a heartbreaking scene as Fiora knows her time here is limited now that Meyneth is gone. It would seem she also knows Melia's feelings for Shulk. An alarm goes off, a group of Telethia attacking the colony. Fiora and the others rush out to defend the Homs only to find Dixon. Back in Shulk's consciousness, Alvis tells Shulk that Meyneth and Zanza need a physical form. That's why this world exists, to give them life. We find out that the reason Zanza needs to destroy Shulk and the others is because they exist outside of fate. Similar to Meyneth and Zanza, Shulk is the only threat to Zanza's existence. The others desperately fight off Dixon, Dunban saying that they've relied too much on Shulk and the Monado. Shulk appears in epic fashion and for some strange reason can still see the future. After pummeling him in a boss fight, Dixon is confused why Shulk has this power. He calls out to Alvis, telling him to stop hiding. Alvis comes out from the shadows and reveals that he's the final member of the Trinity. This doesn't seem to bother Shulk, and we are thrown into another battle with Dixon. By the way, Dunban is so busted. Check out his main skill damage. Absolutely insane. We defeat Dixon, and Alvis asks an important question.
I have seen your will to fight. It is time to decide. What do you say? Does this world belong to you, or to Zanza?
As Dixon and Alvis fly away, Dixon's hand quakes. He notes that he's actually scared. Fiora collapses in pain after all the fighting and is taken to Lenata. Shulk meets with Mikkel, and the fat Machina offers to fly them into the innards of the Bionis through the wound the Mechonis made. Also, if you're playing the Definitive Edition, there's an exclusive cutscene and side quest at the entrance of Colony 6. If you approach, you see the body of Tyrea, the assassin employed by the first consort to kill Melia. She's brought to Lenata and is given medical treatment as she seems to have survived the fall of the Hyentia people, meaning she, like Melia, is half Homs. We find out here that the first consort was straight up crazy. The assassins we fought in Alchemoth were all her biological children, bred and raised to be her silent killers. This means that Tyrea is technically an heir to the throne like Melia. Later that night, Tyrea escapes, and we must chase after her, facing off against a pretty strong Telethia. Ultimately, nothing is accomplished here other than fleshing out the Hyentia and setting up the events for the DLC. The most interesting thing I learned is that the Hyentia can fly with their wings. Holy crap. Before jumping into all the endgame optional material, I fly to the Bionis interior and progress the story until the final area, Prison Island, is unlocked. That way, all material and quests are now open to me. We work our way through the interior, finding out that Butt Lady isn't dead. We make it to the Bionis' heart, and here, Butt Lady teases Melia with her brother's transformed body.
But now his transformation is complete. He is my adorable servant.
Butt Lady and Callian fuse together, and we enter a very easy boss fight. We defeat Butt Lady, and Callian's spirit says goodbye to his sister. I appreciate how many key characters are killed off in this game. It avoids a feeling of plot armor and gives the narrative real stakes. Dixon shows up and makes a portal to Prison Island, inviting us in, which we promptly ignore for hours and hours and hours of endgame content. Alright, so I'm not going to walk you through in detail everything there is to do here, but here's the basics. We first need to finish Colony 6 and make all the alternate Monados. After Shulk died and the Monado was taken away, Vinea creates a different Monado for him to use. She can create multiple different weapons with rare material we gather up. I ended up using the one that had 3 open slots because, repeat with me, slots are always better than stats. Unfortunately, finishing the Monado was the easy part. We now have to tackle Xenoblade Chronicles' most infamous challenge, the Black Liver Bean. I mentioned way back at the beginning of this analysis that in each area you could collect these little blue balls. Every area contains a dozen or so of these collectibles, and each range from common to extremely rare. The single rarest collectible in the entire game is the Black Liver Bean, and anyone who has ever 100%ed this title knows how much time this can take. I doubt I'll be able to find it. What? No way. On my first try? Heck yeah, only one more to go.
One eternity later.
I finally found the second Black Liver Bean, and holy crap, this took so long. With that, I finished out Colony 6 and got the anticlimactic prize. Pretty much nothing. It unlocks a boss fight, which I destroyed, and yeah, that's about it. Nothing else of note, to be honest. So, having leveled up to level 99 and set up my final builds, it was finally time to tackle the best challenge this game has to offer, the super bosses. Like I mentioned, there are unique enemies placed around every area, but in the in-game, there are 5 super bosses that are a higher level than the 99 level cap. These are Final Marcus, Ancient Daedala, Despotic Arsene, Blizzard Belgazis, and the hardest challenge in the game, Avalanche Abacy. Final Marcus is a level 100 enemy, but I actually ended up beating him on accident without even realizing it. I used a few different strats to beat these bosses, but there is one, the break, topple, lock strategy, that stayed consistent throughout. Here, I'll demonstrate it with my fight against Magnificent Daedalus. I tried fighting this level 99 boss the normal way, and its spikes absolutely destroyed me. So I went to work setting up my characters with the topple build. I used a party of Shulk, Dunban, and Fiora. Ideally, you would actually use Melia, Dunban, and Rain to optimize this because of the topple and break arts they have available, but Fiora and Shulk still work just fine. The main gems needed for this strat are Topple Plus and Topple Up gems. Topple Plus gems increase the amount of time an enemy is toppled, while Topple Up gems increase the damage dealt while the enemy is toppled. I used Shulk and Fiora to break the enemy, and Dunban's Topple to knock them over. Then, using Fiora's Final Cross and Shulk's Monado art, I stack Topple until the enemy was simply unable to recover. After that, you simply just pummel him to death. Going up against ancient Daedala produced its own issues, as its spike effect would quickly take out my entire team, especially Fiora, who attacks so rapidly. This is when the team combo comes into play. Unlike in normal battles where your attacks can miss, combos guarantee a hit, meaning you can just topple the enemy, stack topple, and keep going into a combo attack until they're done. Despotic Arcene went down easily to this strategy, but Blizzard Belgazis was a different story. This level 114 super boss throws up spikes when toppled, meaning if I did the topple lock strat, I'd just die. I stacked my team with spike defense gems, and using the topple strat, I took him out. All we had left was the final challenge, Avalanche Abbasi, and damn, this guy was challenging. First of all, he's surrounded by level 99 enemies, which if aggroed would take out my party and not allow me to focus on the dragon. So every time I fought him, I had to take out the surrounding fodder first. Second, Abbasi has an instant death attack that wiped my team every time. Apparently the instant death is a status element, so by stacking debuff immunity gems, I was able to avoid it. Even then, I struggled to stack topple on him since he recovered faster than the rest of the enemies. I kept losing until I realized that he buffed himself halfway through the fight. I used one of Shulk's Monado arts to strip him of his buffs, and was finally able to beat him.
My turn. Yeah! All together now.
Right.
Not bad. Just like old times.
Having finished everything there is to do, I pretty much took a victory lap around the final dungeon and bosses. First, we bulldozed our way through Prison Island till we reached the top and body Dixon. Dixon says he only raised Shulk for Zanza. Shulk asks why he wants to destroy the world, and his answer is so stupid.
Zanza just tells me where to fight and I fight. And that's how I like it.
Is that your reason for fighting?
It's the only reason.
What a lame motivation. It pretty much obliterates any intrigue he had throughout the story. I really thought there would be more here, but no. He just wants to get strong and fight. Alright, whatever. Dixon is mortally wounded and gives up. As the party leaves him behind, he lights up his last smoke.
Damn. How that kid gets so strong. I ain't gonna let you see me die. I won't give you the satisfaction of victory. See ya, kid. Looks like the student finally surpassed the teacher.
Shulk. His wounds.
Zanza sees the coming battle but can't see the outcome, meaning Shulk and his party's fate is undecided. Upon entering the void, Shulk appears in a solar system. Our solar system. Our party passes Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and finally the moon. We confront Zanza, who says that Shulk can become his new disciple. Melia confronts him about her people, and Zanza says that giving intelligence to living beings was a mistake. He says that life of Bionis is just food for him. Zanza then lets slip his true intentions.
A god should not long for friendship.
We absolutely body Zanza, but this is an RPG after all, so he has a second form, which we body as well. Zanza doesn't understand where Shulk's power comes from, so Shulk gives him the cheesiest line in the game.
What's important isn't whether you can see the future or not. It's the will to make a choice, and the strength to seize your destiny. Our time has come. Our destiny is our own.
He then produces the true Monado.
A Monado?
It is not only you that has the right. Every living thing has the freedom to choose the path they walk.
We go into our final fight and body Zanza once more. Zanza dies, but everything suddenly changes. Alvis's voice is overheard, and we finally learn what he is. Alvis was the AI of a space station long ago. Before Maineth and Zanza were gods, they were scientists performing some sort of alternate reality experiment on the Earth. Maineth understood the danger of their experiment and tried to stop Zanza from turning it on. But she failed, and Zanza destroyed the universe, rebuilding it into the one we exist in. Zanza, fearing his irrelevance, created a perpetual cycle of life and death, setting himself as the new god. Alvis became the administrator over the new universe. He asked Shulk if he will allow the world to evolve or stay stagnant.
Tell me your decision for the future of this world.
I won't decide. The future should be decided by each and every person in the world. And so, what we wish for is a world with no gods.
We then see the new state of things from the perspective of Fiora. Dunban and Vinea, who might be a thing, are working on the rebuild. Fiora asks where Shulk is. She then goes to the Outlook, but only finds Melia staring off in the distance. They talk about how different the world is, and Fiora says she's glad they met. Fiora then heads to the docks where Rain, Ricky, Juju, and Sharla are there fishing together. Shulk stands off to the side, looking off in the distance. Xenoblade Chronicles is a special title. It's neither perfect, nor does everything stand up to current day scrutiny, but you can't deny just how unique this title is. Upon release, Xenoblade received a Metacritic score of 92, officially making it one of the highest rated JRPGs of all time. The 3DS port received an 86, with some saying that the redesigns were clunky on the handheld. Takahashi, after years of his RPGs missing the spotlight despite all being critically acclaimed, finally reached his goal. Xenoblade Chronicles, the small title conceptualized on a train ride and released on a dying platform, has since worked its way as a key intellectual property of Nintendo. And Tetsuya Takahashi was just getting started.